Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to spend this time with you today, and I'm so thrilled that you have agreed to be a part of this conversation. This is a conversation that's a part of a larger series that's presented and hosted by Lauv, with the Blue Boy Foundation and in partnership with Microsoft. And we're here to break modern loneliness by really engaging artists such as yourselves on conversations on mental health. I am therapist and holistic nutritionist Jaz Robbins, and I'm so excited to be today's moderator. I wonder if we could have the other panelists introduce themselves. I'll call you out so that we're not talking over one another. And I'll just go in order of my screen here. Alec, do you want to get us started?
Sure. Hi. Nice to see everybody. Thank you guys so much for having me. My name's Alec Benjamin, and yeah, I'm excited to have a conversation with everybody this morning. I make music and I write songs. That's pretty much it. Yeah, maybe those are also the same thing. I'm not sure, but that's it. That's me.
No need to be modest here. You're awesome.
Oh, hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Absolutely. 2 feet.
Hi, sorry, my dog is rubbing up on my leg. Hi guys, I'm 2 feet. I'm a musician. I'm a fan of everybody else in this room. I know all of your music, so I wasn't aware. I didn't actually know who else was going to be on this, so I'm happy to join all these other fabulous musicians today. And thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Téa.
What's up? I'm Téa, and I play guitar in a band called Meet Me at the Altar. Super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And Hayley.
Hey guys, I'm Hayley Kiyoko. Also, big fan of everyone here. Super excited to talk with you all today. I'm an artist, etc. And yeah, thank you again.
Sounds great. Thank you. And before we sort of take a deep dive into mental health, I wonder if we could just for a moment, as I'm getting to know you, as we're all sort of getting to know each other, can we say maybe our favorite color and our favorite film, whether it's a film that came out 100 years ago or came out yesterday, and favorite color. I'm a person who loves color. I think color can be incredibly healing. And to give you all a moment to think, I'll go first. Mine is always at the tip of my tongue. My favorite movie, I'm going to pinky swear you all that there's no judgment in this space. No judgment whatsoever. My favorite movie is Dirty Dancing. I know all of the choreography and all of the lines. And my favorite color is blue. And I'll go in reverse order. Hayley.
I love hearing that. I love this. My favorite color is pink. And one of my favorite movies is Place Beyond the Pines.
Nice.
That's next, right? Yeah. My favorite color is also pink. Hot pink specifically. Love hot pink. And my favorite movie is tied between The Labyrinth with David Bowie and the Pitch Perfect trilogy, because I love Pitch Perfect so much.
That's awesome. Thank you. 2 feet.
Hi, my favorite color is blue. And I guess, I don't know, recently I really like the movie Pan's Labyrinth. I've watched it times. It's pretty cool.
Nice. And Alec, what about you?
I'm not sure I have a favorite color, but my favorite movie is Forrest Gump.
Yes. Lots of chocolates. That's a good one.
It's a great movie.
That's a really good one. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you so much. So in terms of mental health, I guess sort of to get this conversation started, and any questions that I ask, one, don't feel compelled to answer unless you want to. And two, feel free to share as much or as little as you want to on any question that comes up. feel free to talk amongst each other as well as you're hearing things come up. That creates a more engaging dialogue for us all, I think. But just to kind of get us started, I wonder if you could share what just the term mental health means to you. When you hear that term, when you hear that word, what comes up for you? What does it mean to you? Because it can mean a number of different things to different individuals, I think.
I guess I'll go. Can I just ask real quick sidebar? We're just going to go, or are you going to call out on us? We're just going to go for it. Okay.
Just feel free to go. Yeah.
For myself, when I hear the term mental health, I think of ups and downs. I think of managing and navigating ups and downs. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
I definitely agree. Because I feel like a lot of people might think that mental health is linear, but it's not, because, you're going to not be feeling so hot one day and you might feel great the next day. And, as we experience things through life, your mental health fluctuates. So I agree. It's like ups and downs, and learning to manage it and find that balance.
Yeah. Alec or 2 Feet, you guys have thoughts or comments?
When I think of mental health, I think of like my honest thoughts when I hear the term mental health are, I think of mental health disorders. And I think that one of the issues that I encountered growing up is the fact that the distinction exists between health and mental health is, I think, a source of some of the stigmatization that has occurred. When in reality, I also realized that mental health and physical health are synonymous. And I think that the term mental health is evidence of the fact of how rudimentary our understanding is of the human body and how it works and our own consciousness.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, thank you so much for naming that. Before I say a couple things about what you've just shared, 2 Feet, I didn't want to cut you off if you wanted to say something.
No, they covered it.
Okay. Alec, there's so much sort of meat on the bones of what you just shared right now, because I think you're absolutely right. This distinction between physical health and mental health is a large part of the problem, right? The fact that it is normative to go to the dentist every 6 months, the fact that it's normative to get a physical from your primary care physician every 12 months, and, for females to do other things for our bodies, the fact that it's not seen as normative to have that same sort of check-in with a mental health care professional is a large part of the problem. And you are not alone in thinking that, or having that sort of knee-jerk when you hear the words mental health, that you gravitate directly toward mental illness, because I think a lot of people do. And go ahead.
I think that people they grapple with how much agency they actually have over their behavior, and I think that it's a difficult issue to broach, because people don't want to accept the fact that they may not necessarily have complete control over their emotions. And so I think that I don't necessarily think that people separate the two because there's because they are like have any they have poor intentions. I think that people just fundamentally don't understand like how their body works, and so as a result, I think that there are a lot of issues that emerge from our lack of understanding of how our brains function. Because I think that it takes away a little bit of the fun of being a human when you have to accept the fact that I just said it's just a hard issue to approach, just because people don't want to necessarily sort of admit that they may not necessarily have agency over the patient.
I think the part of the reason why it's hard for people to understand that or even know, like, hey, it's not entirely up to you, is because they don't teach that in schools. Like, they don't really talk about mental health in schools. It's like PE, physical education. They don't talk about your brain, which is a huge part of your body and how it functions. It's important to keep your mind healthy, almost more important than your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. 2 Feet, were you going to say something? I thought I saw you maybe wave.
No.
Okay. So yes, Téa, 150%. Yes, yes, yes. When I think it's shifting a little bit right now, a little bit. I mean, and we're taking just baby steps. But if we look at days of old, when the only time we were really hearing the word mental health was when it was in conjunction with a disorder of some kind. Right? When we think about physical health, going back to what you said, Téa, in school, we learn about how to take care of our teeth, what not to do, to avoid cavities, and what to do to make certain that our teeth are healthy. We learn how to take care of our physical bodies. We learn about fruits and vegetables in some form or fashion, all of these sort of preventive measures. But no one is having the conversation with regard to preventive measures when we talk about mental health. I prefer the term mental wellness as opposed to mental health, because I think it speaks a little bit more to the fact that when we look at the spectrum of mental health, there's wellness and there's illness on the other end of the spectrum. And then there's a lot of stuff on the in between, right? And if no one is having the conversation about wellness, then we're always focused on this other end of the spectrum. With that in mind, I wonder if any of you can share, as you were growing up and even maybe right now today, did you have examples of what positive mental health was, or even how to maintain mental wellness? Did any of you have examples of that growing up, or even right now?
I mean, personally, growing up, I had no idea. Like, no one educated me on taking care of my mental wellness or mental health, how to navigate it when you have no control and you can't get out of the darkness, and what to do. And like, there was just no conversation about it. I think now that I've am surviving it, continue to survive it, learn how to function better for myself, I've discovered what helps. But literally, I can't think of one conversation I've had where someone was like, oh, do you journal? Hey, do you speak to a therapist? Hey, like, it was always like, if you were speaking to a therapist, it was like, oh my gosh, like, you must have some major issues, which what you said earlier is like, in my personal opinion, everyone should have someone to speak to every week of their life. Like, that should just be a part of just daily, just the program of being a human being. And unfortunately, it's a privilege to have that. And then it's also, there's a massive stigma behind it. So growing up, I mean, the thought of therapy was like, oh my gosh, like, but do I have that many issues? Like, do I really need to? And now obviously my thought process of it is completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about others?
I'm only 20 years old. So.
Can you just repeat the question one time, just quickly?
Yeah, of course. So what I was asking...
Sorry, I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was asking if any of you, as you were growing up or even present day today, had positive examples in your life of what mental health could look like, could be on the positive end, or preventive measures, or just how to take care of yourself in terms of your mental well-being.
But yeah, I'm only 20 years old, so I wasn't in school that long ago. But even so, it's 2021 now. I didn't really get taught anything about mental health because I grew up in, and I'm still in, one of the most conservative counties in Florida. So the stigma here is pretty big still around mental health. So they don't really talk about it at all in schools. So pretty much everything that I've learned about like mental health and mental wellness has been through the internet or, you know, media like movies and TV shows, because some shows are centered around that, which is great for kids who grow up in, you know, states or counties that don't talk about it. So you're still getting exposed to it.
Yeah. Thank you. 2 Feet or Alec?
2 Feet, go ahead. You go before me, please.
The question is, did I have any examples of positive mental health growing up?
Yeah.
No.
Or, yeah. Okay.
I did not.
Okay.
My family was always very open about talking about our emotions. And I think that like my first encounter with the prospect of dealing with mental health was the issues that arose from my difficulties in school. And I think that what's classified as a disorder is oftentimes being a disorder is just a relative term, because I think that some of the things I thought that made me mentally unwell actually served as very valuable traits in other aspects of my life, and they were only a disorder relative to the order of the way things were in school at the time. And so I think that I don't necessarily know if there were like any good examples, but I think that my parents were good role models because they encouraged me to pursue and to do the things that made me happy. And I think ultimately that's what has made me the most mentally well.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's a good example.
You better be, I know, preach, Alec. Oh my gosh. Preach. So, yeah, go ahead, 2 Feet.
Yeah. Well, and then the other follow-up question was, do you have anything that helps now, right? Like a positive example. Yeah. My friends, my touring crew, my dog are all like, I know it's a dog, but like she shows like, you know, so much positivity all the time. It's a pretty good example of positive health now. But when I was a kid, no. I mean, you know, I grew up in an interesting environment. You know, I had relatives, you know, put cigarettes out of my arms and back and shit. So I didn't really have the best positive mental health show when I was a child. But now it's definitely much better. So I hope that helps a little bit more than my last answer.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. It's taken me down a road that I want to go to. So I just want to recognize that I heard what you said loud and clear. I'm just going to touch on what Alex said really quickly. Stigma, and this was said by a number of you, stigma. In terms of, I can only speak for myself, right? As an African-American female, the African-American community says that we take those kinds of issues to God and to church versus to a therapist. And there's still yet today a large number of the community that still feels that way. And I know that culture can play a huge role in maintaining stigma. Alec, you said that your family was always open about talking about emotions. I have a number of male clients who were socialized to a particular way of masculinity, and that can be a barrier to seeking help when you've been taught not to talk about emotions and you've been taught to sort of suck it up and man it up or whatever. So I really appreciate the fact that you had a different experience growing up, and the fact that you said that you've come to this realization that your weaknesses, if you will, are actually strengths, and it depends on the setting or the frame or the lens that you're looking through. I think all of that is beautiful.
I think also too, like in my family, sometimes like in school and stuff, like I was called like, derogatory terms and things like that, like for being sensitive. People would call me like the slur for like, or people would, this is terrible to say, but they would like call me gay, which is like, okay, like I'm not, but like, so like whatever. But I think that also then that sort of like made me develop this sort of lens of like oh, well, I don't want to be like whatever that sort of masculine, like I work out, I do this, I do that. And I think sort of like stigmatizing that as well was also detrimental to my mental health, because health and physical health and wellness are also they're synonymous to mental health. And so I didn't necessarily, I had a bad example in that, I didn't have that I didn't have a role model in my life for healthy lifestyle and healthy eating habits and stuff. And that was some things that I had to learn on my own when I went to school. And like, I didn't even know how to like make a chicken breast until I went to college. And then the first time I did, I got salmonella. So that wasn't
it's
good.
really hard to cook chicken, Alec. I've given up.
Yeah.
I cannot be cooking chicken in the house because I will get food poisoning.
So I think both parts of the puzzle are important, and I don't necessarily think that like, I think it's just like from all ends, like I wish I would have been like, oh, you don't have to be like a jock type to like take a walk or do some push-ups or whatever, and I like should do that now because I'm in terrible shape, but
Yeah. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story as well. I want to invite others to do the same as we continue this conversation. I think it's also helpful to learn a bit, again, sharing as much as you feel comfortable about who we are, what we've been through, and that offers a hint of the lens that we're having this conversation from within. Maybe if you want to share about sort of your darkest moment, and then we'll flip it once we've gotten through that to hear about maybe your path or journey to healing. And I don't mind. I'll go first. I am, let's see, raised by a single mom, and I am a trauma survivor. There was physical abuse and sexual abuse in my past. And I'd say my darkest time was about 6 years of depression. It was really, really tough. And there were definitely moments when I thought that not living would be better than sort of living the life that I had in front of me. And I'm super glad to be on the other side of it. But that's where I'm coming from when I have this conversation. That's my past.
Thank you for sharing that. I was kind of fortunate to not really have much negatively going on mentally. But it was very rough for me growing up as a gay Black woman in a conservative county in Florida. And like throughout middle school, I was taught a lot of self-hatred that I've had to unlearn throughout high school and starting college. And it's definitely hard to unlearn something that you've been taught, especially if you've been fed that your entire life. But when you do break through to the other side, it's like, I wish I had never listened before. And I'm so glad that I don't even know exactly what it was, but I'm glad that I was able to step outside and realize that I was taught wrong, and learn to love myself. And I'm so glad that I did.
Me too. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, I'll go next. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's like, it's weird to share these things. All of our journeys, I think, are extremely different, which makes this conversation so important. I had a bad concussion that kind of ricocheted and triggered this can of worms to just explode of my mental health journey, recovering from that. And for me, my journey was like, oh, I have no control and there's nothing I can really do. All I have to do is continue to survive to get better. So my journey was interesting because I really had no control. I couldn't understand what people were saying to me. I was dealing with rage and depression and anxiety and obviously very dark thoughts. But it was something that I had no tools to navigate, which I think most people don't when they're going through it. So it happens in a later part of my life. I had my concussion at 25, and it's been 5 years since, still learning to navigate severe depression and just these reactions that I've never had before. That's kind of been my journey and experience with mental health.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Hayley. Thank you for sharing.
Am I supposed to go?
If you want.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think my darkest time was probably my transition between 5th and 6th grade, and probably the 3 years that I spent in middle school, because it's the first time I felt like I went from being treated as an individual to being treated like a number. And sort of that was where we were sort of plugged into a system where initially we had, a homeroom teacher who we maybe liked or didn't like, but there were, 20, 25, 30 kids in a class, and there was time for individualized attention depending on whatever your learning style was. And then they didn't necessarily have the time for that in middle school, and that's when my alternate learning style became a learning disability. And I suppose it was the struggle of beginning to realize that the system actually it has a disability, and that they can't necessarily tailor their approach to people who have different strengths and weaknesses. And so, those were my darkest times because I didn't want to go to school. And I think that if I were to go back and I could redo 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, knowing what I know now, I just wouldn't have gone. Like, I really wasn't really there. Like, physically, I was.
And 2 Feet, I know that you shared, but I want to offer if there's anything else that you want to add to what you said previously.
Sure. Well, I grew up in an interesting household. The cops would come to my house probably every couple of days for domestic disturbances. And then I grew up into, I got out of home. I love my father. He's a great person. But, then I went, I didn't go to college necessarily, and I just kind of started working at home and then, started doing music and everything. And then in 2018, I decided I didn't want to live anymore. So I downed about a bottle of Xanax, and I drank about an entire bottle of Jack Daniels, and I slit my wrists laterally while I was in a bathtub, and made this all very public. I woke up about a day and a half later in Bellevue Hospital. They had scanned my brain because I'd been underwater for so long for brain damage. They had to stitch up my wrists, which I still have scars that are often stared at. Then I spent 2.5 weeks as a ward of the state in Bellevue Hospital with a bunch of other mental patients, watching people get strapped to the beds, being injected with Thorazine, throwing, feces at the wall, being told I wasn't allowed to get let out, et cetera, et cetera. This is in the middle of my climb in my career. I had just played the Colbert Show about a week and a half before. I've recovered pretty strongly since then. I think I'm in a better position in my life than I ever have been. Of course, you get there's a bunch of fake industry people who like to claim that they actually care, but as soon as it comes down to a story, that's sort of serious and sort of hard to share with the public, people sort of just turn away or talk about something a little easier in mental health to talk about than that. And, we got turned down from a lot of festival offers because they didn't think I would actually show up. My label didn't want to put any money into publishing or putting out any of my music because they were scared what the attention and press would do to me. And I've been on medication for 2.5 years, 3 years now, and I'm feeling much better. There's been no self-harm since then, no thoughts of suicide or death. And so, yeah, I guess that would be my darkest moment.
Thank you. I want to pause for a second and just give each of us an opportunity to hold these stories and hold these experiences and honor each of our personhoods. We're all coming from different backgrounds and different lived experiences, but each of them are incredibly relevant to the people who we're looking at right now. All of that led to this moment, led to this conversation. And so I just want to, one, appreciate each of you for being so open, honest, and sharing. As you mentioned, Hayley, these aren't things that are necessarily easy to talk about, especially to strangers. And in most cases, as 2 Feet mentioned, most people would rather shy away from this kind of conversation. So I just want to validate each of your experiences and honor the fact that you're sharing and being so open right now. I appreciate it.
And I'll say too, everything, every emotional experience is completely relative to the person living it. So, one outwardly seeming worse than the other, it doesn't work like that. Things can be just as torturous. Even if they seem minor to other people, can be just as torturous to one person as something extreme to the next. That's why there's little kids who, their crush doesn't like them back and they end up killing themselves in modern day America, so it doesn't really matter. And each experience is just as important and just as important to share. And, it's all relative. It's all the same. And it's important that everyone talks about it as openly as possible.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. So now that we've heard sort of each of our darkest moments, I wonder if you can share a bit about that transition from then into your path of healing or your healing journey. And I call it a journey because it's long lasting, it's never ending. And whether it started a year ago, 6 months ago, 10 years ago, it is a daily journey. Absolutely. And so, yeah, what happened such that you were able to make that about face and start on your healing journey? I'll go first. For me, I was in undergrad and almost like Téa was saying, I can't remember the day and I can't remember like, oh, this thing happened. The only thing I can tell you is I was in my dorm room and I was getting dressed, getting ready to go for a jog. That may be something interesting, right? I was taking care of my physical body at the time. But I realized in that moment that I hadn't cried in weeks. And that was like huge for me at that time. Huge, huge, huge. And spirituality is really important to me. I'd sort of regained a spiritual center. But yeah, I can't speak to like a conversation that I had with a person that was the catalyst, or I can't speak to something that I read. I have to feel like it was a combination of taking care of my physical health and my spiritual health that sort of pulled me out of that place that I was in.
Thank you for
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So for me, I think music was the start of my mental health journey and getting better, because my band started when I was 14 years old. So I had been writing songs throughout this whole process, and more recently than before, but I really started writing songs that I felt like I needed to hear. And I knew that if I needed to hear it, someone else needs to hear it. And that's, what I hear a lot, and which is so great, is that people tell my band all the time that like they wish that they had us when they were in high school because they would have accepted themselves. And it's heartbreaking, but it's so heartwarming at the same time to be able to be that for someone. And like Hayley, you were one of those people for me, which is, you know, crazy to be here right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's music has really helped, especially in like just getting all those feelings out, and each song is a new progress in that journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
I guess I'll go. I don't really have a good answer for that question, because I feel like for myself, it's very like I get through one hurdle and then there's another hurdle after that, especially with my health, because I deal with a lot of physical health that affects my mental health. And then so they go up and down and up and down. So I haven't really had a moment where I was like, oh, I'm through this. But on the other side, I'm very proud of myself for just continuing the fight of wanting to really take care of myself, and really understanding that when I do take care of my body, when I'm eating the right foods, when I'm everything that goes wrong, when I figure out what the issue is, and then I help my body recover, I'm taking one step closer to eventually feeling better, mentally, physically, the whole thing. So I think it's a very individual experience. I would love to say like being around friends help, or, you know, doing certain things help, but it's just so individualistic. And, you know, when you're going through it, you really are going through it alone, but then you have this epiphany, which I had a couple months ago, honestly, too, is that like you're never really alone, because you do have yourself. Like, you are going through it alone, and you feel like you need to just go through it and not really share it with other people, but you're sharing it with yourself. And like, you as a person are the only person who's really understanding and being able to validate all those experiences, all the highs, all the lows. And so I would encourage people to just try to remember that, you know, when they are feeling that alone, is that you yourself, you're getting yourself through this. And like, you have that company, and that company's not going away as you're continuing to navigate, you know, challenges.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. What you're talking about is resilience, right? What you're talking about is and it's hard. What you're saying is so critical, and it's so important, and it's easier said than done. I just want to recognize that. But to get to the place where you can be your own cheerleader, and to get to the place where you can validate your own experience and not need that external validation. And I know I'm talking to performers, to folks who, you know, get applauded and sing and do your music to audiences and whatnot. That is different from knowing in yourself that you are worthy, that you are a treasured item, and that you are worthy to be valued, right? I think when we can get to that place, you are so right, Hayley, that we, you know, whether we're walking this journey in isolation or with like our band or and when I'm saying band as in our tribe of folks, our family, our friends, our loved ones, whether they're with us or they're not, we have ourselves. We have ourselves. We have our center, and we have to hold on to that. We have to hold on to that, because in those quiet moments with ourselves, there's so much wisdom. There's so much wisdom. And when we can tap into that wisdom, it can really, really, really be like the key to putting one step in front of the other the next day and the next day and the next day. So, yeah, thank you so much for that.
I just want to piggyback off of that really quick. That is so true. And some of the most loneliest people are surrounded by the most people. It doesn't necessarily make you any less alone, but that really comes from yourself to realize I have myself. I'm not alone, and to just sit with your thoughts and really become best friends with yourself, essentially, because you can't hide anything from yourself. You can't lie to yourself. You always have to tell the truth.
And I think too, just celebrating, like, I mean, you all have gone through so much, and like being able to acknowledge and celebrate that strength and navigating all of the challenges and the trauma that you've experienced and that you've survived and that you continue to survive every day. And like, that's fucking awesome. I don't know if I can cuss, but it's awesome.
It is.
I think I'm pretty good at lying to myself. But I think the beginning of my mental health journey was realizing that I think sometimes, you know, everything that you consume, be it like food or be it like media, I started to realize that, you know, media, like when I realized that oftentimes your lifestyle is more malleable than your brain, and so sort of like becoming aware of who I am as a person and my just general disposition, and then tailoring my life to fit um, m- my who I am naturally, as opposed to taking my life as like the given axiom that that's unchangeable. How do I change myself to fit into that mold? And so when I dropped out of school, I feel like I made the first step of saying, hey, this path that everybody is supposed to follow is not the right path for me. And I've tried to change myself, but I think that I'm pretty stubborn. So I feel like it was easier for me to change my path. And I think like sometimes, you know, we look at the mental health thing and we go, what are this person's issues? And if you're lonely or if you're depressed or whatever, oftentimes those are pretty reasonable reactions to scenarios that you're put into. It's if you know if you're going through a difficult time, it's not unreasonable to be depressed. So sometimes it's easier to try and change the things in your life than it is to, you know, and sometimes obviously I'm not saying at all like, you know, there's both are possible, but for me, the best choice, um, you know, was to try and begin to learn who I am, and then based on that, try to tailor my lifestyle as best I could to my personality. I like to listen to that Kanye West song, Everything I'm Not. He's like, everything I'm not makes me everything I am. And there are a lot of things about myself that I do like and things that I don't like, but you have to take the good with the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Thank you. Me too. Same. Again, I could talk for an hour based off of some of the things that you mentioned right now. They're so key. But I want to give 2 Feet a chance to offer about his journey or experience.
Sure. By the way, Tay, what is your band's name again? Because you seem super chill, and I want to listen to some of it when we're off of
cool,
this.
thank you. It's Meet Me at the Altar, but with the @ symbol. We're a pop punk band, all women of color. 2 of us are gay out of 3.
Got you. Yeah, found it.
Cool.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm gonna follow.
Yeah, and before we leave, I'm going to give everybody a chance to give their IG so everyone can follow everyone.
Yeah. It's you know, it's been a pleasure to be on with everyone here. Before I start, you know, I'm not really aware. Is this, you know, has what I've been saying been a little too much? Is it okay? Like, I don't.
No.
Kids, is it like I don't know how much I'm supposed to be sharing, to be honest. I'm kind of directing this at you.
Yeah, thank you for asking, 2 Feet. Everything that you've said is appropriate and relevant, and even, you know, and what you said before, Hayley, was completely fine. We may just want to be sensitive to our language and not be riddled with curse words or what have you, but everybody's been good this far. The reason why I think it's important for you to share the story that you've shared is because no one is talking about it. And if we have the opportunity to talk about it in this space, dear God, let's take the opportunity. Let's take the opportunity.
That means a lot to me. I mean, lots of times I bring it up and the subject seems to get quickly changed. It's something maybe like a little, a little lighter, I guess. Not that it's less, important to talk about, but just like a little easier to talk about when it comes to mental health. And so I really appreciate that. But I just wanted to know, because I didn't want to upset anybody, but, I have to share what actually happened. So I guess, when it comes to recovery, I will say this because I was really against it at first, but medication, and a lot of people, and I was against it for years. I didn't think it was going to work or anything like that. I thought it was just like a capitalist scheme to make more money for the pharmaceutical companies, whatever. As soon as I actually committed to start taking my medication, after a couple of months, I did get, much better. And after I started, having therapy sessions and really trying to take care of my body physically and talking and doing chats like this with, they have this whole thing about how chatting with people you don't actually know and just kind of opening up is incredibly good for your mental health. That's why like AA works so much, they think, and stuff like that. So, all of those things kind of combined and just trying to be very conscious and in the moment and, consistent with my medication and chatting with people. I think that just slowly led on to recovery. And, I have kids messaging me all the time, like, how did you get better all of a sudden? Like, nah, I didn't get better all of a sudden. There was immense dips, still depressions following. And sometimes there still are. And that's just how life works. But is it better overall than where it was before? Yeah. And I just try to remind, people who ask me, it's not like all of a sudden you're going to reach a point and there's a flip, a switch that is flipped and you're just way better. It's like, it's going to be a consistent battle, I guess. I don't even want to use that word because it's more of just a consistent flow that you have to work through whenever you get to the lower parts and enjoy the higher parts when they're there, but don't wish that they're going to stay forever because they won't, and just keep moving along and find things that give you joy in every day, like this sip of coffee in the morning or, whatever little bits of joy you can find throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I have like 10 questions and we have time for maybe 2 at best. And I want to make sure that we offer maybe a tip or a tool or even just something from your personal life that other people can glean and perhaps see as helpful. I wonder if you can, because I love laughter and, LOL or whatever. There's nothing for me, I'll say personally, there's something so healing about a good laugh, a good belly laugh. Can each of you share something either that has recently given you that good belly laugh or something that you go to that's like, yep, I can always go to that thing, that movie, that line, that actor, that whatever to get a good belly laugh? I'll go first. My folks in my personal life, they know the kind of memes to send me, thank God, because when I wake up and I've got a new one in my inbox, it's like, yes, I can start my day off with a good laugh. But my go-to is Family Guy, specifically Stewie Griffin. He is God to me. Whatever he says is gold, and that is my laugh.
I love that. That's amazing. I guess I'll go. My dog, I mean, anything she does. I've had her for 2 years now. It's just like, when she like slips over her paw and like falls or something, I don't know. I get a bunch of really good laughs out of her every single day. So.
What kind of dog do you have?
She's a mutt. So she's like a lab mixed with a pit bull, mixed with a hound. I don't know. She's like 45, 50 pounds. And she's the sweetest thing in the world. And I love her like to death more than anything.
I'm sure she loves you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm like a big nostalgic, like I love rewatching things. Like nothing brings me more comfort and joy than watching a movie I've watched like 45 times. True Beverly Hills, like literally gets me cackling. It's like an older film. I'm obsessed with like Sandra Bullock. So like if I'm like feeling really down, I'll just watch any movie that she's in. And I just laugh, even if it's not funny. It's just like, it just really gets me going. And then I also love Friends. Friends also, for some reason, I feel like every time I put it on, they're going through something I'm going through. It's like really weird. I'm like, are you guys watching me? Like, what's happening? But yeah, I mean, that's why I love film and movies and just storytelling, because it's just it's so comforting. It's just like the most comforting thing ever.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Or Alec.
For me, it's a mix of also my dog. I love her so much. Her name's Denali. She's a little Cavapoo. She is a sweetheart, but she's also a brat because she knows she's cute, so she uses that to her advantage. But she's
self-aware.
What did you say?
She's self-aware.
Yes, she is. She's very self-aware. But like I laugh every time she goes. She loves lizards for some reason, or she hates them. But she'll like chase after them and like try to play with them, but like ends up biting them so they die, which is terrible. But yeah, she brings me a lot of joy. She makes me laugh. Also shows, like I love Parks and Rec. I love Parks and Rec. It's such a good show. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie Bad Trip, but that made me laugh a lot. It's on Netflix. It's so good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I laugh at myself a lot.
Same. Alec, what about you?
I'm the same. I like my dog. She's funny. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's my dog, and I like why I watch TV too, stuff like that. Same shows.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I don't have anything else to add.
Awesome. Before we offer everybody's sort of social handles and where to find you, is there anything that you want to share to each other, to us, or even to any fans who may be watching this about, I don't know, how to get out of a slump that they may be in, or just anything that you might want to share?
Well, I'll just share that I'm really proud of all of you that are on here today. You guys are amazing, and definitely people that I'm sure many people look up to you guys, and as they should. So you should be very proud of yourselves. And to the people that are watching this, I'm very proud of you as well. I feel like we need to hear that more. Like we don't, or for myself, I don't celebrate things, or like you wait to celebrate things until you're out of it, or like you're, at the top or where you want to be. And I think it's really important to recognize just your accomplishments as you're just getting through the week, getting through the day. Last week, I had a terrible week, and I was like, I got through the week. I did it, And so I think it's important to be proud of yourself. So I'm proud of you all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, well, same here. I mean, I want to say this has been a pleasure. It's early in LA, and this was a really nice way to wake up and talk to all of you guys. And you all seem incredibly sweet, and I'm, familiar with all of your work, and I just followed all of you. And thank you for sharing. It really, it means a lot. When it comes to small tips, I said it kind of earlier, but it's literally what helped me a lot was finding like really small, tiny pieces of joy throughout the day, especially if you're sad, whether it's the first sip of coffee in the morning, or if you really love the way like the light looks in the sun setting, even if it's like some sort of melancholic depression because of the emotions you can capture from that moment and maybe use later on. Like little beautiful tiny bits of each day are always there, no matter how bad they are, and just always try to absorb those and use them when they're around.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
So important.
I love that. like literally 4 o'clock is like my favorite time of day. Well, winter 4 o'clock when the sun hits, and it's just like I just want to like, it just is so comforting, and I look forward to that time every day.
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful.
For me, what I would like to say is I think it helps if someone tells you that you're in control of your own destiny. And I think a lot of people kind of suppress their dreams because they kind of rationalize it and are like, well, I probably can't do that. It's like 1 in a million. But you can. And like you can live whatever life you want to live, even if you're in a spot where you feel like you don't have control over it right now. You'll get to that part, of your life where you do. And that's something to look forward to. And if that can keep you going, then hold on to that.
Thank you.
I would just say I'm still like finding my way, so I don't really feel like I'm necessarily in a position to be giving people advice because I don't feel like I'm qualified. But what I would say is that don't let your first meeting with a therapist turn you off of therapy, because just because someone has doctor in front of their name doesn't mean that they're all created equal. Everybody has different skill sets and abilities, and just because you don't mesh with the first person that you meet does not necessarily mean that there isn't somebody that's more suited for you in the same field. I think that like a lot of the classifications that we use for people are because it's a really big world, and obviously everything is unique. Conversations with each other, we have to assign labels to things in order to function, but that those things and those labels are only made up because we have to use them, because the world's too big and complex for us to address everything individually. But every doctor is different, and every person is different. So you cannot just uniformly apply the experience you had with one doctor to how you feel your future experiences may be, which I did at first. And then I tried therapy again, like years later, and I wish I had gone through the process of the dating.
I love that.
Thank you, Alec.
I'm sure the same can apply to medication as well. Not every medication is going to work for you at first. Your body has to adjust to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So really quick, if we all can go around and give our IG handles so that folks can find each other and others can find you as well. I'll go first. Jaz.Robbins, that's JAZ.ROBBINS. Hayley?
Hayley Kiyoko, HAYLEYKIYOKO.
Thank you. Téa?
Téa of Mamata, TEAOFMMATA.
Thank you. 2 feet.
Sorry, yeah, it's 2 feet. 2 feet music. You can find it. I think that's for all of my stuff. I'm mostly active on YouTube, but I have on Instagram too and everything.
And then Alec.
I'm just Alec Benjamin, but also, if you don't follow me, that's fine, because I feel guilty having had a conversation about mental health and then telling people to follow me on social media, which happens to be one of the things that makes me feel very mentally unwell. So I wouldn't want to go do a Weight Watchers meeting and then be like, all right, go have a chocolate bar. Like it's all if you don't follow me. Like I hate social media, so I have to.
Also, connects people who, sometimes, I think it's saved my life and its ability to connect me to some of my friends. Sometimes there's positive sides too.
That is absolutely true. So if that is your lived experience, then feel free to follow me. But if it's not, I won't be offended.
Yeah, thank you, Alec, and thank you, 2 feet. You took the words right out of my mouth. It can be detrimental, and it can be incredibly helpful in healing, just in terms of connection. And the fact that we've all been so open and honest, and if anything that anyone has said resonates with somebody, I would love for them to be able to get more of that. Not necessarily that you have to be anyone's doctor, but people just may want to connect, especially if they've heard a story that's similar to theirs. So to each of you, I want to say thank you, Alec. Thank you, 2 Feet. Thank you, Téa. Thank you, Hayley. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you to Lauv and the Blue Boy Foundation. Thank you to Microsoft for sponsoring such an important event. Thank you to Microsoft for honestly being a part of the mental wellness space and for making it your business to really engage this level of awareness for individuals all over the world. This has been such a pleasure for me. I don't take people's time lightly, and I don't take your stories for granted. So I thank you for being open, for being honest, and for being willing to share space with us today. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for sharing
Thanks.
your story.
Great.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Have the rest
See
of your
ya.
day. Bye.
Yeah.